Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Etheria Restart video. So in today's video, guys, I wanted to talk to you all about the CC uh, Arena or PvP team, because I think this is a team that is very achievable for most people. It's the most accessible as well. So right now you have like a triangle meta, which is exactly how it was prior to the Revelation nerf, and it just stays the same, except the Revelation teams are not as diverse, right? So you have cleave, crowd control, and tank. Crowd control beats tank, tank beats cleave, cleave beats crowd control. The issue with tank and cleave is it is less accessible in regards to the SSR characters that you typically need. You also need SSR characters, which means gold lattices are typically required. And even the type of shells for some of these teams aren't accessible. So your typical tank team is going to consist of somebody like a Tiamat who does damage share, and all of her damage scales off of her HP. Someone like a Holden who has a lot of counter attack, and he also scales his damage off of defense. You have heroes like Rahu, which are very similar to Holden, except he joint attacks, so he even makes heroes like your Lingluos or whatever possibly do damage. And then you have heroes like Lingluo who come in and heal up your team, put immunity up to give you a little bit of a chance against crowd control. So if you notice, like all of those characters are essentially SSRs. And because they need to be built tanky, they really need their prowesses skilled up. They need the additional defense. They need the additional HP in the case of Tiamat. All of these things kind of matter. Holden, very, very lattice hungry. Rahu, the same, and Tiamat, in my opinion. Lingluo, you only really need one, but still, you get the point. When it comes to Cleave, you have similar things. I think Cleave is even harder to achieve when it comes to the SSRs because a lot of it depends on LD SSRs. You have heroes like Yeli, you have heroes like Lily for the turn meter boosting, or you have someone like Mio for turn meter boosting as well. So these heroes are LD turn boosters, and then your damage dealers are the Yeli and even, heroes like Messiah. So yeah, a lot less accessible. Now, when it comes to crowd control, one of the nice things is you just need two SSRs. You need Obel and you need Kazuya the Reverie, which are both very good PvE characters as well. So that's awesome. They also only require SR lattices, which are much easier to come by. Now, you might have to sink a good chunk into them, especially if you want to be competitive on the higher ends of PvP. But I think that makes sense considering every bit of prowess that you put into these characters, you're giving them more stats, which makes them easier to build for PvE content, which gets quite hard at the end, as most of us know. All of these things are kind of relevant. So, how does this team work, right? What you are trying to do is literally not allow your opponent to play. So you're utilizing the stun and then the sleep from your Kazuyo the Reverie to just completely control your opponent so they never take a turn. The reason why crowd control is quite good against tank is, of course, if your opponent never plays, that's pretty good. But the second thing is you will not be activating the key piece of their, kind of strategy, which is Lighthouse. Lighthouse ends up allowing their team to cut in front of other teams to ruin their strategy. However, the caveat is they have to take 25% of their max HP in a turn. Crowd control heroes are not doing that. They're doing little bits of chip damage over time to slowly whittle you away. So Lighthouse ends up being almost irrelevant. It could end up being a negative for them, where they could have been playing something like an Alicorn to remove debuffs. That's something that you really have to watch out for. So that's one of the reasons why it's so good. Another reason why it's pretty, why it has a pretty good matchup is all of these characters tend to be run a little bit slow. And slow is a subjective term when it comes to PvP because depending on your rank, slow might be like 280, which to a lot of people I think is very fast. Uh, but what that means is whenever they're being ran slow, it's quite easy for you to build up a character like a Casio or an Obel to outpace those slower heroes and take a turn. Now, one of the things that has become more and more prevalent in the meta is bulwark, right? Because of the crowd control stuff. The nice thing with Obel is not only does Obel have the stun and dot, but he also has a dispel. So he can remove the bulwark if he goes first. Now I'm going to show you a replay of a team that is a meta tank team. And I'm just going to show you how well the Obel and the Casio do at controlling them. One of the other uh, things that I like to bring into this match is Sonya. I, there are cases where you might get unlucky with a stun or your opponent does get a chance to play. But if that's the case, hopefully at that time you've taken out one character or that lucky hit ends up, that character ends up being put to sleep or stunned again by either Obel or the Casio the Reverie. So I like bringing her. And then the other thing that I like to bring is a high output damage dealer, someone like a Deting, someone like the new character, Lilium, someone like a Lily. Because the thing is if you have a fast enough crowd control hero, you don't really need anyone to boost your damage dealer because your opponent just never gets a chance to go, which means your damage dealer can be as slow as molasses and you're still going to end up having the opportunity to get in there and kill. You do have to be careful though, because I did mention that if you proc Lighthouse, there's a possibility that you end up, hurting your strategy. So that's that. Now, how we have Obel built, because I think at least when it comes to the show, people will not have access to this, and that's okay. Ideally, I don't even believe that you need Obel on Codex of Magic. It is a nice have. But the reason why I say that is you're not always going to be utilizing Obel's skill 3, which is what people tend to use in PvE to just spam this stun and the DOT. Now, if you have it or you have access to it, great. Okay. But you're going to need the additional speed from these Inferno specialized cores. This is, again, all subjective though. If you guys are aiming for extremely endgame arena, this is what is going to be required. If you're just trying to scale up and get into platinum or diamond before season end or reset to maximize on your arena currency or your hydro crystals, you just need like a swift rush to make your Obel go fast. I have the Obel in Swift Rush Bulwark. This is an added layer of protection for me because if I do end up getting outsped like by a Mio or something, it still means that my Obel will not get frozen or have his turn meter stolen. So there's a possibility that he still goes in front of the other enemies' animuses. So that's really nice. But the most important thing about this strategy is just speed. What's nice about these crowd control heroes is their requirements are not very difficult to hit. And what I mean by that is the only thing that's really important on them is speed and effect accuracy. Because if your opponent never gets to take a turn, you don't care how tanky they are. Right? So if you have them going at a decent enough speed, and again, like this speed might not be achievable for some people at this point in the game. But the only thing that you'll be looking for is the effect accuracy with speed. That's all you're looking for. That's all that matters here. Like this isn't even effect accuracy, but it's got a decent amount of speed. But I have my speed elsewhere from the Swift Smite, which is really nice. And these two pieces give me the 120, and then you're just looking for effect accuracy on your other pieces as well if you can find them. You always want to prioritize speed over there. So the other shell that you can use on Obel other than Codex of Magic is something like Jackal Guard, because Jackal Guard also gets Swift Smite on it too. So you can have the same exact matrices as you do with your Codex as you do with your Jackal Guard. And as I mentioned, the nice thing about Obel is he's not always going to be using his skill 3. So you don't care that Codex resets his skill 2. You only need the skill 2 for one instance of damage. When it comes to the turn order, you want Obel to go first. You want him to go first because if your opponent has immunity up, he can strip it with his skill 2. And then your Kazuyo can go in and attack down and sleep everybody and push their turn meter back. And then you're off to the races. So the same thing here. I just have Kazuyo in a fast shell with Swift Raid and Swift Rush. That's all she's running. She's running in White Fang with a speed roll here. I also have a hollow roll. I don't know who I had this on originally, maybe like a real mocha. But yeah, I made it work. I even have an epic piece here for the effect accuracy. So 5 speed, 10 speed, 10 speed. And again, that's kind of like effect res, right? So these are the two main heroes. If you take a look at this recent match that I had, this is against a very strong tank team, right? You have a Holden in here, you have a Tiamat, you have a Ling Luo, and you have a Sonya. Now, something I want you to pay attention to is this Ling Luo is going to have immunity on it. But if you have the turn order the way that I recommend with Obel into Kazuyo the Reverie, you can strip the immunity and then start controlling, and you're off to the races. Same thing with these other characters, because sometimes Holden might be in Bulwark. You don't necessarily see Tiamat in Bulwark too much, but it is just another added benefit. So here we go. So we have our Obel go first, and again, right here, you have the Ling Luo that was in immunity. But we were able to strip it off, and now everyone is asleep. We didn't end up proccing any of the lighthouses, which is very important. You don't want anyone cutting in front. You don't want them healing up. Now, our Lilium is going to trigger the lighthouse, but we're at a point where we don't really care because we have the ability to go with Obel on his stun. But again, this is where the Codex does not really matter because we didn't even use the skill 3 on that first go round. And now all we're doing is we're focusing down this Ling Luo. There is a case to be made for sure that I should have went after Sonya, but I care more about the immunity in my opinion, and then I will eventually go after the Sonya. But all your game plan is here is to make sure that the Ling Luo does not get off any heals because that's when she cleanses. And you just want to pinpoint each of these individual characters on which ones are asleep or not. The Sonya being in here as well is also quite nice because she doesn't have to attack, which means you won't wake someone up from the sleep. So now that we killed the Tiamat, our main goal is to just make sure this Sonya never gets a turn to revive anybody. So we're sleeping with Kazuyo the Reverie, and we are targeting the other character that is no longer asleep. Once you get the stuns back up, you can attack whoever you want. But as long as the sleep is up there, you don't really want to target the character with sleep unless it's with Kazuyo the Reverie, because she doesn't wake people up whenever she sleeps someone. So I ended up attacking Sonya because I thought she was asleep, but she's stunned. So now it's just Sonya. And because we have Kazuyo the Reverie here, she's not going to take a turn, which is really nice. You have the additional stun from the Lilium, which is even better. But if you brought in any other crowd control hero too, as well, like you don't have to bring Lilium. You can bring in a Kraken. You can bring in Red Kachi, the rare. anything that has stun, turn meter, pushback, you actually, that would have been a better showcase if I used the red Kachi instead of the Lilium. But the Lilium makes it a bit faster. So you get the point here. Now, when it comes to RTA and Fearless Arena, the reason why I think people should do this is because Fearless Arena is so important to do every week. And and again, I think it's just one of the more accessible ways to get really nice rewards. You don't even have to win. Like this reward is whatever. Five fragments, yes, they add up, but it's essentially nothing, right? 10 weeks for a lattice off of this it's whatever. I think the more important thing is the Hydra crystals and the mental stabilizer. But this is a great opportunity for you guys to utilize this strategy. This is where I was using this. So I put all of my fastest gear into Obel and into Kazuya the Reverie. And then I would pick characters like Lily or Doki Doki just to bait them into banning them, even though they didn't have any gear. I still had a shell on them to make them think that they were geared, but I ended up getting the exact same team that you saw in the normal arena mode here in PvP. So this is what I was talking about. Even though this this guy, and what he should have done is he could have Mio'd there and possibly stole turn meter or froze the Kazuya. But he went for the immunity on everybody, which honestly wasn't a bad play because now he's got multiple buffs on. So there's a possibility that I don't strip the immunity. And I only stripped it from the Mio and from Lily. Actually, Mio lost it whenever she took her turn because she went after the Ling Luo. But this is enough for us to at least even start controlling. Now, you have the possibility of Ling Luo healing them because they have the whale prayers up, which is completely different. But I wanted to showcase this because Holden here did end up killing our Kazuya the Reverie. And this is where the backup plan of Sonya comes into play, which is awesome. Even though he did kill one of our crowd control units, because we have an Obel in here or another threat, we have the possibility of taking away their turn again and having the ability to revive up our Kazuya to try and get some more crowd control now. So our Obel, remember, used his skill 2. So his skill 3 is up. So now the Lily, the Holden, and the Mio can all be stunned. And if he adds those DOTs, even if they end up cleansing from the Ling Luo, there's a possibility that she doesn't cleanse the stun. Maybe she just cleanses a DOT. So yes, this is not like 100% guaranteed. But in regards to an accessible team, other than the Lilium, but like I said, you can run somebody like a Kraken. You can run somebody like Red Kachi. You can even run Marvel if you want to put down resistance and speed down to really help you loop back around to your crowd control heroes. I think it's just such a much easier team to access for the casual player base. Most people have the Obel and the Kazuya built already because they're great in PvP. I mean PvE. And if you can transition them over to the PvP side, even better. Now, this is where me having Lilium helps against, again, a player that has a very good roster. Like, this is high-end kind of stuff, or at least close to high-end. You know, I'm not a high-end player, but this strategy has helped me win a lot of Fearless Arena and gotten those rewards every weekend, even if I go up against someone who has a much better roster or like more lattices built into people. Just because I already had these characters built, it's much easier to hit the speed thresholds and all those things. And it could even get better. Like, I'm still missing 8 speed on Obel. I don't have the Kazuya skill 1 fully leveled up, which turns her sleep on her skill 1 from 1 turn to 2 turns. That makes controlling things a whole lot easier. It's probably something that I am going to do or should do. But yeah, guys, I really recommend people go after this strategy. I think it's very achievable for most. And I know the speed thresholds that I showed are tough, but if the only important thing is effect accuracy and speed, try and get up to the 280, 290 range. If you can put bulwark on somebody, even better. If you're not there yet, it's okay. You know, maybe you have to do fearless arena or normal arena more than most just to get your prizes and stuff. And it is what it is, but eventually you'll get there. It just takes time. So yeah, this is essentially where the guy ends up quitting. I don't know why he quit. I thought he had a little bit. Oh no, we ran out of time. So it was still not looking good for him. But in the end, guys, yeah, that's just what today's video was based on. I want you guys to really prioritize that because I think it can be a very lucrative strategy for you and maybe get you to enjoy Arena a little bit more. So, uh, I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.